Hey everyone, most disappointed book reader here. Today I want to talk about Black Sheep Maiden by Willow Smith and Jess Handel. In media conversation, there is this term that is often used in music industry, Nepo baby. The term is not always negative, but it is often used for mocking bad music artists because Nepo baby comes from a family that had a connection to the industry or just really rich parents that can pay for those connections to the industry. So Nepo babies have all those advantages, almost unlimited resources along with free time and ways to practice and train that normal up and coming artists don't have. So when they make bad music, Nepo babies used to mock these artists since they're either lacking talent or too lazy to practice and build a better foundational skills. An easy example of this is Jaden Smith, the son of Will Smith. The whole Smith family itself is a weird family that should be studied for social oversharing, but Jaden is maybe the most unique person from the family. From his attempt at being in the media industry, he's not a good actor. In the anime industry, he made perhaps the best worst anime of all time, and in the music industry, none of his album is good. He's even the face of M14 and this is deep meme for I think ever now. But not all Nepo babies are built the same. Jaden has not produced any good album, but her sister Willow on the other hand has made some pretty exciting movement on the music industry. Her album Coping Mechanism is one of the most interesting post-punk album, and her latest album Empathogen, where she tried to dabble on rock album, showcased her versatility and talent at making music more than ever. So when I saw that she wrote a book, I thought I might as well give them a try. The book is written not just by Willow though. From the cover you can also see Jess Handel written in a smaller font. That usually means that the idea comes from Willow Smith, but most of the writing is done by Jess Handel. Kinda like the thing Millie Bobby Brown did with 19 Steps. It's a ghostwriter, but not exactly ghostly since they're more open than usual, which I think is fine. It's at least better than people who didn't even credit the actual writer and fully claim the work of the writer as their own. And who knows, maybe the book is good, maybe it's not as much of a dumpster fire as Logic Supermarket. The introduction to the book didn't give a lot of good signs since it is fully explaining how the author got the inspiration to write the story and the main characters, and starting a story by explaining this before you even got into the story is like explaining a joke before you tell the joke. It's just not a good look. The story starts following one of the main characters, Yafue, who is on a hunt. She's targeting a deer and has been hiding for quite some time, waiting for her chance to strike the defenseless deer, only to have a wolf come and kill the deer first. She was thinking of killing the wolf since the deer is gone when she felt something from having an eye contact with the wolf that made her stop. It was the same feeling she had when once in her youth, she saw her father bested a crocodile. It's so early in the book for such a forced flashback moment. The first dialogue is even in this flashback and it felt so forced. The dad had a monologue that stayed with Yafue, but the conversation to get to the monologue doesn't feel natural at all. It felt like the main goal of the scene was the monologue, and every other scene beside the monologue are there without the same consideration as the monologue. Nevertheless, the story continues, or not really, because we are immediately hit with another flashback, this time even longer back, so we can have a long exposition about how Yafue comes to be, his father background as a blacksmith, how he met with his mother that is not from the same tribe, so Yafue grew up being looked down on the tribe since he is considered impure. There is also the fact that she's a girl trying to be a blacksmith, which is a job for the men in the tribe. Then her father left the family for reason not yet told in this very long and boring exposition before the story finally continues. An event called Market Day, which apparently is a traditional festival, is about to happen, but she forgot about it because of the wolf, so she was late going back to the village to help her mother. And not only she was late, but in the market, she got into a fight with some guys who are harassing her store for no reason. It's about as well written as Wuxia's manhwa, where the obvious bad guy is trying to pick a fight with the main character, and as a result they sell nothing during the festival. She not only went back with her mother with empty hands, but a few items was stolen during the chaos. Her mother quickly forgave her and reminds her about her father then went on a journey. Beside Yafue, we also have another character, Freydis. She was the daughter of King Bali waiting for her mother to give birth, carving the rune of Freya for safe childbirth, but the god did not answer her prayer and her little brother didn't make it. But the author made a prophecy that her mother will one day give birth to twins, the first sons the king will have. In the meantime, while waiting for the birth of one heir, it is time for Freydis to be married to her childhood friend. Back to Yafue, who is awakened rudely from her sleep because her village is on fire. A slave caravan attacked her village, looking to loot and steal the village. There's even the people who got into a fight with Yafue in the market yesterday, although it leads to nothing. At the end, Yafue got separated from her mother and she and her friend Ampah got taken by the slaver. They went through the desert and Ampah died during the trek through the desert because of heat and exhaustion, so now Yafue is alone without anyone she knows. Thankfully, during her sale, a few women comes and attack the slave market, freeing her in the chaos. The person who rescued her introduced herself as Altic. They come from a group called the Magus, a group that her father said he'll go with on his journey. Yahweh wanted to ask more, but no one in the group speaks the same language as her, so for now they only knew each other's name and nothing else. And with that we got our third main character, Aftir. She went back home with the group along with Yahweh, and once she got back she went to her cousin trying to sell Yahweh to him. So she's not exactly saving her for a good cause. Aftir is also the sister of Bali, Freydi's father. They had a meeting about attacking the Christian that have been growing stronger across the sea, and marrying Freydi not to her childhood friend but to another loyal vassal of Bali might be a better political move. Then we have a series of events where Yahweh was forced by Aftir to become Freydi's servant. The scene goes by crazy fast. Oh no, Yahweh got caught by the slaver. Oh, she's rescued. Oh no, her rescuer is just another slaver. Oh, it's fine, she killed her master. Oh no, Aftir comes just in time to put her under someone else. Oh, it's fine, the new slave master is a kind slave master. Which, for one, that's crazy that Willow Smith put a kind slave master trope character into her writing. And two, let the scene breathe. Most of the scene feels like nothing because it just went by so fast. Every scene feels like if you didn't realize the floor is a step down and you kept walking like normal, you feel like falling, but you're not. It's just the floor is slightly lower. That's what every scene feels like. Just another floor that is slightly lower. But the story goes on to make Freydi and Yahweh become closer and closer friends, and somehow it was so long before the death of the slave owner was found despite him being a wealthy man in a small Viking village. I don't think the author are quite aware how little there is to do in the village and how much smaller it is compared to a city. If someone is missing because he is dead, it shouldn't take so long and so easy to wash away. A ton of the plot are not that interesting because you can tell that it doesn't connect all that well with the setting of the story. Instead of bringing us back to the times of the Viking, the characters and the events feel more like paid actor in some kind of a Renaissance fair. Like they're modern people role-playing badly in some kind of theatrical show in the modern festival. If you compare this to Babel by R.F. Kuang, which brings us back to 1830 England during the Georgian era, where it really feels like we go back in time to see the characters who lived during that time, that almost never happened in this book. Yahweh calling her father and mother Papa and Mama at the start doesn't help because it makes the story feel more modern than it should. In a world where Finland saga exists, you need better storytelling than this one if you want to tell a compelling historical fiction set within a Viking setting. How in the hell did one Japanese man tell a much better Viking story than both of the authors that are born and raised in the West? That's just bad. Not all of it is this bad though, there are parts that seem like it's supposed to tell an interesting story. The worst part of the book is mostly the start of it, because for some reason it's really rushed to establish Yahweh's background. It got a little better after the initial part, but a lot of the book is still a very rushed story. Having three main characters also doesn't really add much to the plot, especially since the other two main characters beside Yahweh is so clearly just a side character compared to Yahweh. So the three main characters and perspective change only function to make the storytelling to lose its focus and makes the character not well fleshed out. It feels like things happen in the book because there's a plot point that the author wanted to hit, but the in-between in those points are not well thought of. Yahweh become a slaver for a moment, but there's really nothing that happened during a slavery before things just move on into the next point. Trauma feels like it's resolved itself, which is too convenient. Also in one part of the book, she killed her slave master, which is a huge crime back then with consequences that should have affected the other slave. A punishment used as a panopticon between the slaves, where everyone is watching everyone else, but there is no consequence to her at all. And when you're in the story where the king just ordered her sister to cut off the head of a leader of a tribe in front of his son because he didn't pay his taxes, and then ordered the son to be the next leader and pay for his father's dead body if you want him to be buried in his land, you can feel the plot armor working extra hard to make the main character safe and sound without any harm. It also feels like the author just noticed cool lore and knowledge about the Vikings and wanted to hit all of them during their story, but can't do it using just one character, so they wrote a story with three main characters. We will go through a lot of rituals and cultures that the Vikings go through in the story, including all the god names as much as possible, including even this one like Holmgang, which is a Viking duel to the death. The story ends after so much plot convenience that eventually turns Yahweh into the Viking queen after she was a slave there, and then the book ends with a sequel bit, which I have no interest at all in reading. It is not as bad as Logic Supermarket, which were barely coherent, but it's unfortunately still just another really bad fiction written by a musician. It's disappointing but not surprising. I give this a 1. What do you think? Let me know if I miss anything, so leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. That's about it. See ya.